Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I never thought I'd be thankful for my habit of waking up at the crack of dawn, but that Wednesday morning, it might have saved my livelihood. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon when I heard it, a low, mechanical rumble that didn't belong in our quiet, rural neighborhood. Grumbling to myself about inconsiderate construction workers, I shuffled to the window, prepared to shake my fist at whatever crew dared to start their day so early. But what I saw made my jaw drop and my blood run cold. There, at the end of my long driveway, was a bulldozer, and behind the wheel was none other than Karen Johnson, my nightmare of a next-door neighbor, gleefully tearing up the only road that connected my property to the main street. "What the hell?" I shouted, fumbling for my phone to call cop as I sprinted out the front door in my pajamas. Karen, stop, what are you doing?" She killed the engine as I approached, a smug smile plastered across her face. "Oh, good morning, John. Lovely day for some landscaping, don't you think?" I gaped at her, then at the destruction around us. My gravel driveway was torn to shreds, with huge gouges in the earth where the bulldozer had ripped it up. "Landscaping? You've destroyed my driveway. How am I supposed to get to work?" Karen's smile never wavered. "Oh, sweetie, this isn't your driveway anymore. This is my land, and I'm just reclaiming what's rightfully mine." I blinked, certain I must still be asleep and in the middle of some bizarre stress dream. "What are you talking about? This has been my driveway for the 10 years I've lived here. My property line extends all the way to Maple Street." She waved a dismissive hand. "That's what you think, but I've done some digging." She paused to chuckle at her own pun. "And it turns out this strip of land has belonged to my family for generations. Your so-called driveway is trespassing on my property, and I'm putting a stop to it." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of her insane claims. "Karen, that's ridiculous. I have the deed to my property. The property lines are clearly marked. You can't just decide you own my driveway and tear it up." "Oh, but I can," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "And I have? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more work to do." She turned the key, and the bulldozer roared to life again. Panic surged through me as I realized she really intended to destroy the entire driveway. "Stop," I yelled, waving my arms. "This is insane. I'm calling the police." Karen just shrugged and continued her path of destruction. With shaking hands, I dialed cop. "Cop, what's your emergency?" "My neighbor is bulldozing my driveway," I shouted over the noise. "She claims she owns it, but she doesn't. Please, send someone quickly." The dispatcher assured me they'd send officers right away, but I knew it would take at least 15 minutes for them to reach our remote location. I paced back and forth, watching helplessly as Karen tore up more and more of my property. My mind raced. How could this be happening? Karen had always been difficult, complaining about every little thing, from the color I painted my shutters to the time of day I mowed my lawn. But this was a whole new level of crazy. After what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, I heard sirens in the distance. Karen must have heard them too, because she finally turned off the bulldozer and climbed down, brushing dust off her hands like she'd just finished a satisfying day's work. 2 police cruisers pulled up and 4 officers got out, looking bewildered at the scene before them. "What in the world is going on here?" one of them asked, taking in the torn-up driveway and the bulldozer. I jumped in before Karen could spin her lies. "Officers, thank God you're here. This woman, my neighbor Karen Johnson, showed up this morning and started destroying my driveway with that bulldozer. She claims the land is hers, but it's not. This is my property." Karen scoffed. "Officers, I assure you, I'm well within my rights. This land has belonged to my family for generations. I have documentation to prove it." The lead officer, whose name tag read Thompson, held up his hands. "All right, let's everyone calm down. Sir, you say this is your property?" I nodded vigorously. Yes, I've lived here for 10 years. I have the deed, property surveys, everything to prove it." Officer Thompson turned to Karen. "And ma'am, you're claiming this land belongs to you?" "That's right," Karen said smugly. "My great-grandfather originally owned all this land. It's been in my family for over a century." Thompson sighed. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step away from that bulldozer." "Sir, do you have your property documents readily available?" "Yes, they're in my home office. I can go get them right now." "Please do," Thompson said. Then he turned to one of the other officers. "Johnson, go with him to retrieve those documents." As Officer Johnson and I headed back to my house, I heard Thompson telling Karen, "Ma'am, regardless of any property disputes, you can't take matters into your own hands like this. Destroying property is a serious offense." I led Officer Johnson to my home office and pulled out my file of property documents. "Here," I said, handing him the thick folder. "Everything's in here. The deed, property surveys, tax records, everything." Johnson flipped through the documents, nodding. "These all look in order, but of course, we'll need to verify everything officially. Let's head back outside." When we returned, I saw Karen engaged in a heated argument with Officer Thompson. "I don't care what his papers say," she was shouting. "This land is mine, and I have the right to do whatever I want with it." Thompson looked like he was at the end of his patience. Ma'am, I've already explained this. Even if you believe you have a claim to this land, you can't just show up with heavy machinery and start destroying property. That's not how this works. He turned as Johnson and I approached. What did you find? Johnson handed over my documents. Everything looks to be in order, sir. Property deed, surveys, and tax records all show this land, including the driveway, belonging to Mr. He glanced at me. Cooper, I supplied. John Cooper? Thompson nodded, flipping through the papers. These do seem to be in order, Mr. Cooper. Now, Ms. Johnson, do you have any documentation to support your claim? Karen's smug expression faltered for the first time. Well, I don't have them with me right now. But they exist? This land has been in my family for generations. Thompson's expression hardened. Ms. Johnson, without any documentation, and given the clear evidence that this property belongs to Mr. Cooper, I'm afraid you're in a lot of trouble here. Karen's face went red. This is ridiculous. I know my rights. You can't just... Ma'am, Thompson cut her off firmly. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. My jaw dropped as I realized what was happening. Thompson continued, you have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Do you understand these rights as I have read them to you? Karen sputtered incoherently as Thompson gently took her arm and led her towards one of the cruisers. Wait, you can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. As Thompson placed her in the back of the police car, another officer approached me. Sir, we're going to need you to come down to the station to give a formal statement. We'll also need to take some photos of the damage for evidence. I nodded, still in shock at how quickly everything had escalated. Of course, whatever you need. But, what happens now? My driveway is destroyed. I can't even get my car out. The officer gave me a sympathetic look. I understand, sir. We'll do our best to expedite this process. In the meantime, is there someone who can come pick you up? A friend or family member? I thought for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, I can call my brother. He doesn't live too far away. Good, the officer said. Go ahead and do that. We'll need you to come down to the station as soon as possible to give your statement. As I walked back to my house to change and call my brother, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Relief that Karen had been stopped, anger at the destruction she'd caused, and anxiety about what would happen next. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a legal battle that would consume the next several months of my life. My brother Mike arrived about an hour later, his eyes widening as he took in the scene. Holy crap, John. When you said Karen bulldozed your driveway, I thought you were exaggerating. I shook my head grimly. I wish I was. Come on, let's head to the police station. I need to give my statement. As Mike navigated around the torn-up driveway, I filled him in on all the details. He let out a low whistle. Man, I knew Karen was crazy, but this is next level. What the hell was she thinking? I have no idea, I sighed. But I'm going to make sure she pays for every bit of damage she caused. At the police station, I spent the next couple of hours giving my statement, providing additional documentation, and answering what felt like a million questions. By the time we finished, I was mentally exhausted. What happens now? I asked Officer Thompson as we wrapped up. He leaned back in his chair. Well, Ms. Johnson is being charged with criminal mischief, trespassing, and destruction of property. Given the extent of the damage, these are serious charges. She's being held for now, and will have a bail hearing tomorrow. I nodded, trying to process everything. And what about my driveway? How am I supposed to get in and out of my property? Thompson gave me a sympathetic look. I understand this is a difficult situation, Mr. Cooper. For now, I'd recommend staying with a friend or family member if possible. We'll try to expedite the process, but legal matters like this can take time. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling overwhelmed. Okay. Thank you for your help, Officer Thompson. As Mike drove me back to his place, my mind was spinning. How had a normal Wednesday morning turned into this nightmare? And more importantly, how was I going to fix this mess? Little did I know, the saga with Karen was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Update. It's been 6 months since that crazy morning when Karen bulldozed my driveway, and I'm finally ready to put this whole mess behind me. The legal battle was long and exhausting, but in the end, justice prevailed. After Karen's initial arrest, things moved pretty quickly. She was released on bail the next day, but the judge ordered her to stay away from my property. I ended up staying with my brother Mike for a couple of weeks while we figured out a temporary solution for accessing my house. My lawyer, Sarah Jenkins, suggested we file for an emergency injunction to get a temporary road built. We need to show the court that Karen's actions have caused you significant hardship, she explained. If we can get a judge to order a temporary access road, it'll strengthen our case and make your life a lot easier in the meantime. I agreed, and Sarah worked her magic. Within a week, we were in front of a judge who seemed appalled by Karen's actions. He granted the injunction, ordering the county to construct a temporary gravel road along the edge of my property. It wasn't ideal, but at least I could get in and out of my own home again. Karen, meanwhile, wasn't taking things well. She hired some hotshot lawyer who tried to argue that she truly believed the land was hers. My client acted in good faith based on family stories and documents she believed to be true, the lawyer claimed in court. but Sarah was ready for them. She presented a thorough title search showing my clear ownership going back decades. Your Honor, she argued, even if Ms. Johnson genuinely believed she had a claim to this land which we dispute, it does not give her the right to take matters into her own hands and destroy property. Her actions were reckless and caused significant damage to my client. The judge agreed, and things started looking up for me. But Karen wasn't done yet. She started a smear campaign in the neighborhood, telling anyone who would listen that I was trying to steal her family's land. It was frustrating, but I tried to take the high road. Just focus on the case, Sarah advised me. The truth will come out in court. She was right. As the criminal trial approached, the evidence against Karen kept piling up. The prosecutor uncovered emails Karen had sent to a friend, bragging about her plan to take back what's rightfully mine from that annoying John Cooper. It was clear she knew exactly what she was doing. The trial itself was surreal. Sitting in the courtroom, watching Karen try to justify her actions, I couldn't believe how far things had gone. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a confused, well-meaning woman who made a mistake, but the jury wasn't buying it. After just a few hours of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict on all counts. The judge didn't go easy on her either. Ms. Johnson, he said sternly, your actions were not just misguided, but dangerous and criminal. You showed a blatant disregard for the law and for your neighbor's property rights. This court sentences you to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. You are also ordered to pay full restitution for the damage you caused. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as the sentence was read. Karen's face went pale, and she started sobbing as the bailiff led her away. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but then I remembered all the stress and chaos she'd put me through. With the criminal case settled, we moved on to the civil suit. Sarah had advised me to sue for damages beyond just the cost of repairing the driveway. You've suffered significant emotional distress and inconvenience, she pointed out. We should seek compensation for that as well. I was hesitant at first. I'm not the kind of person who likes to sue people, but Sarah convinced me it was necessary. This isn't about being greedy, she said. It's about holding Karen accountable and making sure you're truly made whole after everything you've been through. The civil case didn't even make it to trial. Once Karen's lawyer saw the strength of our case and the outcome of the criminal trial, they quickly offered to settle. After some negotiation, we agreed on a sum that covered the full cost of rebuilding my driveway, which was significant given the extent of the damage, plus additional compensation for my trouble. It's a good deal, Sarah told me, as we looked over the final settlement agreement. It's more than fair compensation for you, and it allows Karen to avoid another public trial. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and lingering frustration. I just want this to be over, I admitted. Sarah gave me a sympathetic smile. I understand. Sign here, and it will be. As I signed the paperwork, I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It was finally over. The next few weeks were a flurry of activity as contractors came in to rebuild my driveway. They did an amazing job, and soon it looked even better than before. As I stood at the end of my new driveway, looking out at the smooth asphalt, I couldn't help but feel proud. I'd stood my ground, fought for what was right, and come out on top. The neighborhood dynamics had shifted too. Most people had seen through Karen's lies and were sympathetic to what I'd been through. My next-door neighbor on the other side, Tom, caught me outside one day as I was getting my mail. Hey John, he called out, walking over. Place is looking good with the new driveway. I smiled. Thanks, Tom. It's nice to have it all sorted out finally. He nodded, looking a bit uncomfortable. Listen, I wanted to apologize. When all this started, I didn't know what to think. Karen was telling all sorts of stories, and I should have come to you directly instead of listening to gossip. I'm sorry about that. His words caught me off guard, but I appreciated his honesty. Thanks, Tom. That means a lot. It was a crazy situation all around. We chatted for a bit longer, and as Tom walked away, I felt like things in the neighborhood might finally be getting back to normal. A few days later, I ran into Sarah at the local coffee shop. She waved me over to her table. John, how are you doing? How's the new driveway working out? She asked as I sat down. I couldn't help but grin. It's great. Everything's great, actually. I feel like I can finally relax and enjoy my home again. Sarah nodded, looking pleased. I'm so glad to hear that. You know, your case really stuck with me. It's not often we see something so bizarre. I chuckled. Yeah, I still have trouble believing it all happened sometimes. Well, Sarah said, leaning in, I wanted to let you know that your case has actually sparked some interest in the legal community. The State Bar Association has asked me to give a presentation on it at their next conference. They think it's a good example of how property disputes can escalate and the importance of proper legal channels. I raised my eyebrows, surprised. Wow, really? I guess some good came out of all this craziness after all. Sarah smiled. Exactly. And don't worry, I'll keep your name out of it. But I think your story could help educate people, and maybe prevent something like this from happening to someone else. As I left the coffee shop that day, I felt a sense of closure that had been missing before. My ordeal with Karen had been nightmarish, but I'd gotten through it. I'd stood up for myself, navigated the legal system, and come out stronger on the other side. Driving up my beautiful new driveway that evening, I felt truly at peace for the first time in months. Whatever challenges life might throw at me next, I knew I could handle them. After all, if I could deal with a neighbor bulldozing my property and come out on top, I could handle just about anything. The next one is malicious compliance story. I work for a visitor attraction in London. Generally, we are out on the floor answering questions, etc. We had a dedicated team that worked in the control room, usually supervisors or those that wanted to become supervisors. Normally 1 or 2 people in the control room. They were never ever on the floor if they could help it. They watched the CCTV and controlled the breaks, lunches, etc. For instance, if a visitor sets off an alarm, they would call us and we would investigate the alarm. Management decided to pull the supervisors out onto the floor and train floor personnel to be in the control room. Good idea on paper, but in practice? Supervisors didn't want to go on the floor, and those on the floor didn't want to go into the control room. Some of us already worked in the control room as we relieved them for breaks, lunches, etc. Basically, if you were in the control room, you stayed in there. First training week went something like this. Someone that knew the control room training 3 or 4 of the floor people. Needless to say, that put us short-staffed on the floor, and management had to go on the floor to cover. As how hard could it be? It will only be a week, then I can go back to my cushy desk job. First day I was training 3 or 4 floor staff and management/supervisors were on the floor. Management told me treat them like normal floor staff. Okay, no problem. I asked everyone that I was training normal floor staff. We all got big smiles on our faces. Not even 10 minutes goes by and radio call. Can one of you bring the keys for the front door so we can let the public in? It's a 5 minutes walk from control to the front door. I radio one of the management on the floor. Come to control and pick up the keys and take to front door. I get a phone call. Just have so-and-so bring them over. There's 4 of you in there. As per procedure, nobody is allowed out of control room. Management take 5 minutes to get to control and then take the keys over to front door. So we are late opening. Next radio call. Which key is it? It's number 20. They open the doors. Alarm goes off. Control. Why did alarm go off? You need to call control to let us know exactly when to take alarm off. Procedure? All of this is written down. Procedures must be followed. Now that the public is in, alarms start going off for various reasons. The public loves going through doors that say door is alarmed. Normal stuff? I start radio calls to management on the floor. Charlie, 3 go to door X. Charlie 3, go to door X, etc. etc. Delta 4, relieve Charlie 3 for their lunch. Lunchtime, I get phone calls from people who haven't been relieved for their lunch on time. Management hasn't figured out that travel time between your post and the break area is not included in your lunch/break. If you have an hour lunch and it takes you 10 minutes walking time to get there, then basically, your lunch is 40 minimum 10 minutes to go from your post to break room, and 10 minutes to go back to post. Normal control room staff knew this and would start lunches early to give everyone as much as possible a full lunch. More radio. Calls Charlie 3. Can you check the toilet? Report of water on the floor. Charlie 3, can you go to X? Visitor wants to use a voucher. Actually, Charlie 3 go to door X, but I'm with a visitor. Doors take priority, Charlie 3. For the rest of the day we ran management crazy. Everything in the procedures was adhered to. Count the empty spaces in the car park. Check locks on the emergency gates. Check toilets, men's and women's, to see if they need to be refilled with toilet paper. Look for lights out. Fill in your task book, etc. Next day, needless to say, I wasn't in the control room. Didn't matter. The tone was set. Didn't matter who was in there. The rest of the week went by the same. Everyone that followed me ran management nuts. Management, to their credit, changed some things after that. Black sneakers can now be worn. More break rooms closer to posts have been opened. Procedures have been loosened up. Control people are back in control and floor people are on the floor. Everyone is now trained in the control room, but they only have to work it if they want. Still was a glorious week. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.